Okay, good evening, everybody. I'd like to call to order tonight's meeting. Today is Tuesday, October 11, 2011. Looks like it's, I think, 7:01. That clock may be a little fast. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, Mrs. Booth, and how are you this fine day?
Great. How are you?
Can you please call the roll?
Mr. Newsom?
Present.
Mr. Novak?
Present.
Mr. Neary?
Present.
Mr. Sloan?
Present.
Mr. Stecker?
Present.
Mr. Yerkes?
Present.
Mr. Polio?
Present. We do have a quorum. Mr. Urban will be absent this evening. Our next item, item number 4, public comments and questions. Anyone to step up to the podium? We'd like to get this meeting over by 9. I will hold my breath. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes in length.
Good evening. Is this operating well enough?
I don't know, but it doesn't sound like it is. Is it green?
How's that?
There you go.
Good evening. My name is Timothy Hinsdale. I'm speaking this evening as a private citizen and a Westchester resident, a local business owner, and I reside at 1613 Kensington in beautiful Westchester. This afternoon, I stopped by the Village Hall and presented to one of the clerks a copy of tonight's agenda with several items highlighted. I asked if I could have copies of the pertinent documents from the meeting packet for tonight's meeting for the items that I indicated. The clerk was not sure how to respond to my request, so she left the area and she returned with a blank FOIA request form and informed me that I would have to fill it out. I asked if by filling it out, would I be able to view the documents? And again, she was unsure. So once again, she left the area and returned with Ms. Hope Garrett, the designated FOIA officer for the Village of Westchester. Ms. Garrett told me that I would not get to look at the material I requested and that I would have to fill out a FOIA request. Once again, I asked if by filling out the FOIA request, would I be able to view the documents? And she said no. I calmly and slowly stated to Ms. Garrett that I felt I was entitled to view the documents that were going to be presented tonight, and that I was going to stand up here as I am now and tell my story and ask the board, why do you make it so difficult for a tax-paying citizen to get information about a public meeting? I pay my taxes on time. I pay my water bill on time. I even have a current library card with no overdue fines, but I can't get a copy of the documents that are going to be discussed here tonight. I've been before this board before with the same request, and the board acknowledged that I had a right to see those documents that were going to be discussed. I feel Ms. Garrett acted in a very unprofessional manner. She should not be allowed to hold the office of FOIA officer for the village. I brought my situation to the attention of Village Trustee Frank Perry and Village President Sam Puglia. Both offered me to examine their copies of the documents, and I welcomed that. Trustee Perry even went as far as to apologize to me for the way I was treated and felt that that every citizen should have the right. However, President Puglia did not offer apology or an explanation. I felt his indifference was a disappointment, and upon reflection, it was indicative of how I was treated by Ms. Garrett. I sincerely ask this board and the village staff to please be more respectful of the citizens. The cavalier attitude and indifference of both Ms. Garrett and President Puglia, I felt were disrespectful to me and therefore to the public. To use a cliche I loathe, at the end of the day, I did get to view a copy of the documents. I want to thank Finance Director Janet Matthews for facilitating copying the documents and allowing for me to pick them up right before 5 p.m. closing. None of this would have been necessary if either Ms. Garrett or President Pulia had stepped up to the plate, done the right thing, and let me view the documents at the front counter. By the way, when it is time to approve the minutes of the Committee of the Whole for August 23rd that are in the packet, would some trustee please make a motion to correct my address? It should be 1613 Kensington. And in the future, would you refer to me by my given name of Timothy? That's what my friends call me. I wish you would too. Thank you for listening to me. Have a good night.
Thank you. Any other comments to the board? Anything? Okay. Item number 5, consent agenda. Any board person wish to pull anything from that consent? We have the record of bills, department monthly reports, approval of the minutes.
Do you have to vote on it first or to
No, pull it.
like to pull the record of bill?
Record of bills. Also, under C, there's regular board meeting August 9th, August 23rd, special board meeting September 7th. So we have record of bills. Anything else?
Well, if we can
Oh, I'm sorry.
pull the minutes to make the corrections as noted by Mr. Hinsdale.
Okay, and that was, again, August 23rd?
23rd.
Okay. Okay, other than that, anything need to be pulled? If not, is there a motion and a second to approve that consent agenda except with the exclusions?
So
Motion
moved.
by Brian?
Second.
By? I'm sorry?
Nick.
Nick? Okay. All those in favor of approving those consent items, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition, say no. No? Okay, those carry. First item is the records of bills. Is there a motion and a second for their approval with discussion? Motion by?
So moved.
Second.
Who got it?
I,
Wally?
and then Tom.
Wally and Tom. Wally?
Yes, I emailed Janet earlier on Senate bills that are in the packet. And there's a lot of them. There's 4 bills in particular that I noted. Invoice 1248, 1239, 1231, and 1238. They all have verbiage saying refer to verbal approved at July board meetings. I was looking at these and I wasn't quite sure. I looked through July minutes. I couldn't. It's on page. One of them's on page 53 in the packet. It says verbal approved at July board meetings. I don't remember in July approving it. Then Janet emailed back and said that they were August 9th. We talked about it. It was the stack of invoices that were, I guess, backed up that the mayor brought up. And the only reason I know I just was a little concerned was the total of them were $32,787.50, and I don't recall if we discussed a dollar amount in that meeting. And they were actually August 9th, not July board meetings. So I just wanted to note that.
The only thing I could indicate is, as you recall, there was a stack of tree work to be done dating back to December of 10 that I brought before this board and indicated that there was quite a number of emails and requests for service that Public Works couldn't get to as a result of the paving program and that, and I asked this board if we can go ahead and get those taken care of. At that time, I don't believe there was any dollar amount associated with that, as we didn't know the scope of it and what had to be done and whatever. But if you can remember, there was quite a stack that was continually getting larger every day. So,
Yeah, actually, finance director brought that to my attention. I remember talking about that. It was August 9th meetings, not July board meetings, that we talked about this according to the email. And so if you want to note that on the purchase order. And the other thing is the purchase orders were dated 9/26, and the invoices were dated August and September 1st. So we were issuing purchase orders after the actual invoices were received. So we probably should have done a blank purchase order at that point in time and said, you know, here's an estimated cost, X amount of dollars with the PO. So at the August 9th, August 10th, we could have issued a blank purchase order, then worked off that purchase order. And instead of getting the invoices and then writing up a purchase order that matches the dollar, it's kind of a moot point at that point in time. So that's all I have to say.
Yeah, I don't think we actually knew the amount that it was going to be. I mean, there was so many other things to certainly be looking at. But you're correct, we probably should have pulled one that said emergency, whatever, and
Yeah, you could do a
And just
blank
kinda-
one, and that works out. That way, you have a control process in place where you're issuing a PO, a blanket, prior to the invoice dates.
yeah, because I think each one of these are reflected in the sheets that we had received calls on and were written up to.
Right.
To follow these things as well. So there was a check and balance. So noted.
Okay.
Any other discussion? I think they were all the Senate tree bills, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
It was actually, there were more Senate tree bills, but there's only 4 of them that referred to that
Okay.
project, so.
How big is the stack now?
I haven't checked the envelope back there.
Oh, geez. What stack? Shouldn't be a stack.
But trust me, it climbs on a daily basis. So, are there any questions regarding any of those
Well,
those bills?
Just to answer that question, I mean, if we do have these, we may want to attack them in smaller amounts instead of building it up. If we know we can't get it and we need to do these things, you know, instead of having one big lump hit.
Well, I
you know.
think when the envelope fell off the wall and I picked it up, that it was time for an ancillary review to see what was in there. And I sorted them by month and certainly went to the village manager and that and said, what could we do about these? At the time, Mr. Feckerata was off dealing with personal matters, so I brought it to the attention of the manager, and I brought it to the attention of this board for rectification. So the residents could feel that we were timely in the response of the tree hangers, that some tree didn't fall on their house or on somebody outside. Most of these were in the emergent end of it, and again, the PW was otherwise engaged, and honestly, I felt that if things weren't able to be taken care of that were early on this year, that, you know, I'm not sure that, based on what they're doing, that we'd be able to get to those in a more timely manner, and that's why I brought it to this board for verification that that's the course of action we wanted to take. Certainly didn't know the dollars amount. I know our Mr. Sinnott has always given us value when we've checked other persons out there and what they charge for certain thing, even in our potential personal contacts with other people, getting prices for things that seem to be a reasonable charge, whatever it was.
And that's fine. I said, my question is, if we know we can't get to it, instead of getting a lump sum at some, you know, if we could say, okay, hey, we ain't gonna do this, we're not gonna be able to get to this, do it. Because that way, if you're looking at projections and you're looking at dollars, and, you know, it's a more reasonable fit than, you know, oh, geez, I thought it was 10,000, it's 32,000.
Got it.
Sam,
Oh, I'm sorry,
in a
Brian.
number of these were larger jobs that our guys typically wouldn't handle, correct? And do our guys do stump removal, grinding?
I don't believe we
No?
have the
That's
the
usually
equipment
outsourced,
for that,
correct? Yeah,
and
okay.
that's something that our vendor Sinnott does. If we would have to do it, we'd have to.
We'd be
Rent that
renting it,
piece
we're
of
not used to
equipment.
using equipment, I'm just, you know, pointing out that a majority of those expenses are items that our guys would not have been normally acclimated to doing.
I mean, it's quite possible that, you know, going through that list, there may have been some that were reachable with our equipment. But since Mr. Sinnott was in the area doing specifically tree remediation after the storms we had, it was easier just to go from one to the other, and not break up the scheme of what PW was doing. So, but as far as the PO, so noted, in the event that that transpires again, we can pull an open one or whatever, just an oversight. So, okay, with that being said, There's a motion by Wally and Tom for the approval of the bills with discussion. Roll call, Kathy?
Mr. Gattuso?
Aye.
Mr. Novak?
Aye.
Mr. Perry?
Aye.
Mr. Sloan?
Aye.
Mr. Stecker?
Aye.
Mr. Yurkovich?
Aye.
Mr. Julian?
Aye. Okay, the last thing was the committee of the whole correction. Is there a motion and a second for that approval with correction? Motion
moved.
by Paul?
Second.
And that was Brian? I'm
Yep.
sorry. And that's the committee of the whole of August 23rd, 2011.
It was,
Yeah.
Yeah, Paul and Brian, I'm sorry. The corrections are so noted? Okay. All those in favor of the approval of those minutes as well? Say aye.
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 Any opposition, say no. Motion carries. Item number 6 on the active agenda, resolution authorize the execution of an agreement with Icon Enterprises, doing business as Civic Plus. Greg, is there discussion with this as well, sir?
Motion.
Okay.
Need a motion.
Sam, we
we need a motion, so we get a motion
Okay.
on the table.
Is there a motion and a second to approve this?
So moved.
Second.
Who was the approval?
Frank and
Frank
Nick.
and Nick. Okay. Are there any questions regarding the execution of this agreement with Icon? Greg, if you wouldn't mind, for certainly the public at large, if you'd give us the highlights of this. I know we talked about this in a prior meeting, but
Yes, Civic Plus is the company that we intend on working with to develop and redesign our webpage, provide us with a lot more content, a lot more of a user-friendly interface, and specifically allows internally us to update the webpage much easier using a content management system. It'll provide us with a lot of what I'll call widgets, would allow us to put in things such as, forgive me, the, oh gosh, the, hold on one second. It'll allow us to place in things such as agendas and calendars, bid postings, calendars, document center, frequently asked questions, as well as web QA. It'll place online statistics on our page, allow us to audit the web page as a whole on a regular basis, place news flashes in. So in general, it's giving us a lot more content than we personally can maintain and update. So in a nutshell, what you've all received today was a copy of the finalized contract that was reviewed by Kate from our legal team, and at this point, it's up for you to vote on.
oh, Brian, any
I
questions?
just have a question. Under the agreement renewal in item number 12, indicates that either party may terminate within 30 days' notice. Going into this upfront, we're going to be paying an increased fee in the first year for the overall development design of the website. Yet, if you're in, the beginning of year 2, this gives the vendor the opportunity to terminate the contract with 30 days' notice when we're putting forward the capital up front for this design. I think there should be something in there that if they're going to terminate within that initial term of the 3 years that we're committing to, that they're paying us back any unamortized costs of the design for, in essence, cutting short the program.
Okay, just a second. I think we're paying a fixed fee of the $73.83 for the 3 years,
Right.
which equates to the capital outlay of $15,850
Yes.
plus, I forget, 2-year service
Okay, so
agreement. Yeah.
the service, okay,
Yeah.
I saw the 15
Yes.
at the top, so I
Right.
thought that was in the first year.
I know we got hung up a little bit last time
Yeah.
on that, so
Yeah.
I think we're paying the same amount each year.
Okay.
Correct. Yes.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Brian, you said
Yeah.
paragraph 12, the revised agreement has the agreement renewal starting in 13 now?
The one I downloaded from Greg today had 12. Maybe
Yeah, I
I'm.
think he was passing those out tonight. Did
Oh,
you
I didn't
send
see
the
that.
revised?
Yeah, that's the same one that I sent today, if that's what you're speaking of.
Yeah, but mine shows it at paragraph 13, so.
Of what?
No,
What's
it's
13?
12.
What do you guys have?
I got 12.
I got 12.
You got 12. Do you talk about
Maybe our
the,
attorney should get the.
Yeah, that would be nice.
My office prepared it, so.
Yeah, that's the one I
got the
handed
right
out.
one,
It was
so-
the one Kate gave us.
you talk about the either party may terminate this agreement at any time,
Yeah.
paragraph
Yeah,
12.
Underneath the
Yeah,
bold heading,
Mike has
paragraph
13,
13.
so maybe we're not reviewing the
Oh,
current
maybe you
copy.
don't have the right document then?
We may not.
So ours is out,
Okay.
but Mike's is in.
Hang on,
I
let's
can
read
make
this one.
copies of his.
Mike, is the verbiage correct?
Well, we gotta make sure we got the right contract.
The one that I have has the 30-day termination notice.
Yes.
Which
that's
was
what-
not in the original agreement. so-
Right.
Correct.
But that's, and the ones we have, that's paragraph 12.
Yeah, ours is 12. This one here is
Yours is 13.
So what's, I guess,
We're
if
missing
we're,
a paragraph.
it's like,
Question, what's the difference?
what's
Yeah,
the
that's what I'm
add-on?
trying to find out right now.
You know what it is? Number 10 is skipped and they made it 11. Oh, you have no 10.
Okay. This one's got, I've got a red line version. After project go live is now 11 on mine. Yeah, the numbering's off, so,
He's missing
But
10.
you know
we're good?
what?
His is 11.
I gotta look at
So
the clean version, because maybe it self-corrected.
So the one we have is the right
It
one
did.
then?
I was looking at the red line. The one that you're looking at is the clean version.
Gotcha, okay.
When it went to a clean version, it self-corrected. Moved everything after 10 up, so
Okay.
you're good.
Paulie.
I just have a question, again, under the agreement renewal. We did, paragraph 12 does show the, what we talked about. 13, paragraph 13, which I think would be Mike or 14, the event of termination, it says we're gonna, the client would pay all services prior to termination. And then 14, I was trying to read it, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not really sure what this is saying.
Since municipalities have to appropriate funds to enter into a multi-year contract, and since it extends more than 1 year, if you fail to appropriate funds in the second or third year, this gives you an out.
So 13, if we terminated the contract in year 2 and 1 month, we would have to pay for everything earned up to that
Up
first
to
year
that
month.
date. It's only up
then-
to that date.
But I think paragraph 14 says we have to have our restitution through the fiscal year, not the whole contract, but at
Correct.
least through the so we have to pay anything for the last 11 months of year 2.
You will not. You only pay for services provided up to the date of termination. And paragraph 14 now gives you the opportunity to terminate the contract based on lack of an appropriation in years 2 or 3.
So if we, for some godforsaken reason, we can't fund year 2,
It gives you the ability to
but
terminate.
we don't
the
know anything,
contract
we only owe what we've hit as of termination date.
As of termination.
Not through the second fiscal year.
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions regarding that? Okay, there's a motion and a second on the floor for that approval. As it deals with money, Kathy, please call the roll.
Mr. Novak?
Aye.
Mr. Perry?
Aye.
Mr. Slow?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr.
Aye.
Russo?
Aye.
Aye. Item number B under the active agenda, an ordinance denying a zoning variance for the property commonly known as 615 Portsmouth. Mr. D. Pasquale, is there a motion and a second for that denial?
So moved.
Second.
Who has a second?
Wally.
Wally?
Paul.
Okay.
I thought you said.
Okay, Nick and Wally, for the record. Mr. Pasquale,
Did
D.
they get
Pasquale,
the-
would you like to
Did they get the
make any other
proper-
comments on that?
Yeah, I was just wondering if they got the proper documents to you and.
The petitioner and his attorney did come in to see me, and they acknowledged that there was probably an error by their architect. I guess they didn't really review the documents carefully before submittal. They indicated that sometime in the future that they're probably going to resubmit, but they were going to sit with the architect first and see what the cost analysis would be for doing something that would be within the legal confines.
Okay. Does anyone need any more information from Commissioner DePasquale?
Part of the problem was that the design showed that the structure was going to be built on public property. It extended not just up to the lot line, but across it, so.
And I think that was the representation at the last meeting as well, and the reason for the denial as well.
Yeah,
Is that correct?
Yeah, that was discussed at the last committee of the whole meeting.
Okay, there's a motion and a second on the floor. Kathy, please call the roll.
Mr. Perry?
Aye.
Mr. Sloan?
Aye.
Mr. Stecker?
Aye.
Mr. Yurkovich?
Aye.
Mr. Nasuso?
Aye.
Mr. Novak?
Aye.
Mr. Fulia?
Aye. Item number C, an ordinance granting a zoning variance for the property commonly known as 1014 Portsmouth. Motion and a second to approve. Motion
So
by
moved.
Second.
Brian and Nick.
Nope,
I'm sorry, Frank. Brian and Frank for the record. Dennis, any other additional information on this?
This one was also discussed at length at the last committee meeting. This one was recommended unanimously by the Zoning Board of Appeals for approval. It's just awaiting your concurrence.
Anyone have any more questions? If not, there's a motion on and a second on the floor for their approval. Kathy, please call the roll.
Mr. Sloan?
Aye.
Mr. Stecker?
Aye.
Mr. Yurkovich?
Aye.
Mr. Nasuso?
Aye.
Mr. Novak?
Aye.
Mr. Perry?
Aye.
Mr. Fulia?
Aye. Okay, item number D, liquor license application, 10147 West Roosevelt Road. In Mr. Urban's absence, I will start the discussion out on this regard. I don't believe this appeared on the committee of the whole, and there's no urgency right at this juncture to vote on it. If the board wishes to do so, there's a process for that.
You don't have to vote on this. You have the right
My
to issue the
recommendation.
application.
Okay.
Allows you to grant the liquor license once you've held the public hearing. I think this was just put on for information
Information?
purposes.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, we can do that as well. 10147 West Roosevelt Road is JD's Convenience Store. The business is in the process of being sold. There is a new owner who has executed a lease. I think you may have received some of that documents over the weekend. There was a liquor commission hearing today where I appeared with the attorney and Mr. Mukesh Patel and another gentleman, Mushi Kamar, Jana Talal Patel, who one is the owner and one is the manager of the business that is going to be called Ayushi, A-Y-U-S-H-I Incorporated. They're also changing the name to JD Food and Liquor. I went through the customary application process with the gentleman. I asked them questions reference to how they plan on running their business. I certainly asked questions regarding the sale of liquor to persons under the age of 21 and what controls they have in place. Looking at their background information, which I have, if anyone needs to peruse that as well, I have a copy of that as well. There doesn't appear to be any reason for any denial. It appears that they're going to run this business in similar fashion to how it was run under Mr. DeTusa's store prior to Mr. Shaw's store at this point in time. I did ask them whether or not they had any conversation with the prior owner and the dealings that that prior owner had with me as a violator of selling alcohol to underage people and the sanctions that I placed on them as well. They indicated that they had conversation in that regard and that they would put in the proper controls, even as much as a scanner-type device to card people that were attempting to make that purchase. They understood the hours of operations and that there is no sales from 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. in that regard, and they even indicated that they may, depending on the business, they may even reduce their operating hours. Obviously, they need to depend on whatever. They also indicated that they are in the process of transferring the lottery application to them. They indicated to me that that appears to be a transparent change from one owner to the other, that they don't have to go to any great lengths to do that. They just have to make the application. And obviously, if there's no liquor to be sold there or no lottery to be sold there, that they would not be probably opening up the business. So they still have not closed on that property as well, although there is a lease in process here. This is pretty similar to what we did in the past when Mr. Shaw was in the process of transferring to his ownership from the DeTusa family. So I could find no regard in not granting the Class A license for the liquor sales in that regard, and I did advise them that it would be up to the Board of Trustees as a check and balance to either decide whether or not to issue that license again, as I made it clear that when one owner closes, that the liquor license pretty much dies. So, information, that's my recommendation. There was no reason, again, for me to deny anything. All the paperwork was properly completed. It was also scrutinized by the law firm, and a transcript of my hearing today was made as well.
If there is a need to create another license because we've reduced the number, then that would have to be put on the agenda for a subsequent meeting. And hopefully this discussion tonight, if any's engendered by it, will be in lieu of having to put it on a committee of the whole agenda. So if the desire is to move forward with that ordinance, then that needs to be prepared for the next meeting or some meeting after tonight.
Okay. Any questions from anyone? No? Okay. Okay, item number E is action regarding personnel matter. I would ask that that be placed in executive session.
Mr. President, we're going to need to have that executive session and then follow that with item 6E, which more than likely means we're going to have to recess your regular village board meeting, conclude the committee of the whole meeting, and then reconvene the regular meeting with the executive session and this item 6E. So that'll be the last thing that we do this evening. So when we get to the bottom of the agenda, we need to move item 6E after item 11.
Or it would be after, would we go into the committee, the COW, so would it be at
You're going to recess your regular meeting with items 11 to be followed by 6E, still remaining on the regular board meeting agenda.
Okay.
We'll recess to be reconvened later this evening. We'll then call to order the committee of the whole meeting, conclude that, then reconvene the regular meeting, take the vote to go into executive session, and then come out of executive session and deal with item 6E.
Everyone have that? Okay. All right. Item number 7, manager's report. I don't have anything from the manager. Anything from the attorney report?
Not for this session, thank you.
Board member reports, anything that any board person would like to say? The Green Committee.
Green. We had the electronic recycling. I'm believing it went very well. We have our meeting, I believe, October 20th. Our regular meeting, we'll be discussing a few options and talking about wind energy, talking, everybody saw, I hope, Ask the Green Team in our newsletter. I hope Steve's got a lot of questions for us, so that's about it. Thanks.
Frankie, I know you were not unable to attend the EDC. Did you get any follow-up?
Just from Dennis briefly.
Conversation?
It wasn't a very intricate meeting.
And Tom, I know you have one coming
We
up
have one tomorrow.
correct?
Yep, and we're discussing a possibility of a food drive for the holiday seasons for November and December.
Okay. Chief Padlick, any information you'd like to share?
We have a couple thank you letters I'd like to share with the board from the Northbrook Police Department dated October 5th. Dear Chief Padlick, on September 8th at approximately 3:45, the father of a depressed suicidal man came to our department to report his son was acting erratically, waving a loaded revolver around the home and had pointed at his mother. He came into the Northbrook Police Department asking for assistance. A NIPAS call-out was requested. Officer Rich Mahoney from our department responded. A perimeter was set up, and about 3.5 hours later, the subject surrendered peacefully and was taken to the hospital. Pleased that the incident concluded successfully with no harm suffered to the victim or any responders. I appreciate the time and efforts of the NIPAS team and thank them for their assistance. And that's from Chief of Police Charles Wernick from Northbrook. A second letter from the Wheeling Police Department dated October 4th. Dear Chief Padlick, on September 22nd, 2011, the NIPAS Emergency Service Team executed a search warrant for illegal drug sales at a location in our town. The assistance of NIPAS Officer Rich Mahoney helped bring this matter to a successful conclusion with the arrest of one subject. The Wheeling Police Department is aware that participation of well-trained men and women such as those on the NIPAS Emergency Services Team are essential to the successful outcome of these types of situations. Please extend our thanks to Officer Rich Mahoney and be assured of our continued cooperation in all matters of mutual concern. And that's from Chief William Benson of Wheeling Police. I have one October 10th from the Italian American Police Association. Dear Chief, on behalf of the Italian American Police Association, we'd like to send you our heartfelt thanks for participation in this year's Columbus Day Parade. We truly appreciate your support. Next year's parade will be on October 8th. We hope you will join us again. And in closing, I'd like to remind everyone on this Saturday from October 15th from 10 to 2, both the police department and the fire department in conjunction are hosting open houses. We will have ongoing tours. The fire department will be having fire engine rides, extinguisher demonstrations, and end on their controlled burn. And at the police department, we'll be having ongoing tours, an evidence tech demonstration, a taser demonstration, if anybody would like to volunteer for that one. Also a canine demonstration, and we'll have our neighborhood watch there with safety tips. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Captain Waters, I see you're in the audience. Is any comments regarding the fire department? I know Jim is off this week. I think you have your open house as well. Is that not correct? Okay. And I think in years past that you've constructed a fire simulation as regard with having sprinklers and not having sprinklers. Is that the plan again, Jim? So, and that's very interesting for those that have not seen that demonstration, that how quickly a room that has a sprinkler puts it out versus without a sprinkler, how it engulfs it, and within seconds it's gone. So, thank you. Dennis.
I don't really have anything to report for this meeting this evening.
Janet.
Just a brief mention that our HR assessment will be concluding shortly, and we should have a draft report for the board, hopefully for the next meeting.
Thank you. Mr. Riebel.
Just want to thank, and guess this is going to be Rich Mahoney evening, but Rich Mahoney was able to, through the LESO program, which provides police departments, fire departments with surplus property, he was able to acquire for us a very large server unit as well as a large network switching device. The server unit has a value of $117,000. We're in the process right now of determining its usability throughout our village. The switch itself will be used immediately. It has a value of about $15,000. All this equipment comes courtesy of the Department of Defense, and Rich Mahoney is the individual who sits up late at night waiting for those pieces of property to be placed on the website available for us to participate in that program. Very excited to see how we can use that server throughout our environment here.
Also, Greg, I've seen that we have a part-time employee that's been assisting you in the IT area.
That's
I think
correct.
that's something that we talked about probably early on in the year that came to fruition
Very recently, yes.
recently. And
We've gone through a process of determining how we were going to do this. There was some internal discussion as to whether or not we'd hire 2 people and see how they went. We didn't, our first round of obtaining applications didn't bring us what we were looking for at that time. So we went back out looking, kept the posting on our website. We then went back to the drawing board, determined an individual, Steve Sarasuelo, would be the individual who would assist me throughout the day. He's not here every day. He's here 3 days a week currently. And so far he's been doing very well. I was able to take a vacation day yesterday finally. And he filled, yes, I know, filled in for me.
thank you, Greg. If you wouldn't mind handing that microphone to that gentleman that's right behind you, Mr. John. John Feccarata, Public Works Superintendent. Mr. Feccarata, if you'd give us a
Blow by
maybe a
blow.
little bit of an update on the
Crack filling. Okay, first, we'll start on branch pickup. We have one more pickup, which is the first week of November, and then that's the last one, guys. There's no more after that one. We got the sweeper out with a helper with a dump truck for the leaves that are coming down, and they're coming down pretty good now. Tomorrow we're going to send out the brooms that go on the front end of one of our pickup trucks with 2 dump trucks and 2 other gentlemen to help them push them together with a payloader and a tractor. We built the bin up down here at the end of the drive. There's already 140 yarder there that we've already filled up, and that's going off tomorrow morning. We're finishing up on crack filling. We've done 30 blocks so far. We're winding it down this week, the next 2 days if it doesn't rain. That's it. 30 blocks and 6, I believe it was, that we used of tar. I have the streets that we did and what we're trying to finish up. We're trying to finish up on Waterford, which is one of your new streets. Finish the crack filling on that so we don't have a problem on that one. That's the very last one. Windsor Drive, all the streets that they did this year, we're trying to fill up the sides, and if there's any cracks popping up. Hopefully that crew is finished up by Monday if it doesn't rain, and then we're going to send them out for leaf pickup. And we start the dance all over again.
Okay, anyone have any
Yeah,
questions?
you know, I just talked, John, you talk about leaves. One thing I observed, you know, we do have the people sweeping pile of leaves into the street. And, you know, obviously there's the issue of going into the sewers and such, but there's a safety issue, which I didn't realize until I saw it, is kids were playing in the pile of leaves. These are at least 3 to 4 feet off the street or off the curb. So I don't know if we can note that in the web or saying, you know, this is a safety issue where you have kids playing in leaves on the street. You know, and I don't even think they were of that house. So, you know, it's something we may want to note that, you know, yes, there is the issue of the storm sewer, but there's also kids out there playing, and, you know, it sure wouldn't be that difficult for a kid to get up, worry, move back, and get hit by a car.
Maybe we can, you know, we got the leaf bags in that They dropped off Home Depot. We got the last set today. In fact, I should have sent it out, but the last set came in today. As soon as they get out on the street, we can have the residents, start bagging them. But we probably,
Yeah, and maybe we could just note something on our web.
yeah.
Well, Greg's here, so
Yeah.
get some direction and put a little safety issue in there as well. Ms. Garrett?
The sidewalk project is ongoing still. We had a lot of rain last week, so it delayed us some. So we're continuing with that. They poured 40 squares of sidewalk today. And again, they're working on it every single day. Interior lights, we found out yesterday that we're going to be receiving a grant for the installation of the lights as well as the purchase of the lights.
Excellent.
And that we're going to get some credit for the work that we've already done. So we're actually going to end up ahead financially wise by the time this project is done.
Less the mayor's commission.
They can't do
And-
electrical work.
On your way out tonight or on your way in, you may have noticed that all the exterior lights in the building have been switched out in the last 2 days. So they're all the new efficient LED lights. The water tower is officially 1 week ahead of schedule. So we should be done with that in about 10 days. The interior painting is completed. Now we're waiting for it to cure. And then there's some other small projects that have to be done on the water tower before they fill it up and chlorinate it and test it. But we're officially 1 week ahead of schedule. And then High Ridge, we finally got the IEPA loan, which I sent out an email to all of you, so at least all of you know that we should be starting that project maybe Thursday of this week. We're going to start that project with some point repairs, which are just going to affect 1 or 2 homes at a time. Once those point repairs are done, we'll start the lining on the long runs. This project affects about 520 homes in Westchester, and then another 75 to 80 in Hillside. So it's a big project, affects a lot of people, and it's gonna make a big improvement for all those homes. That's all I've got, unless I'm missing something.
Okay, just a couple things. I know we chatted a little bit earlier today. You did send out an email regarding the relining project, and I think I suggested, and it may have hit everyone, that we consider putting out a flyer to the affected residents and possibly having some type of, I don't want to say town hall, but some type of meeting in here. If residents need more information other than what we're going to supply door to door regarding what's happening and what is the process, and certainly explain pretty much what's going on. And I know you had a little flyer out there that indicated, I don't want to say a restriction on water use, but that once the main sewer line is lined, that there has to be some type of a camera with an appliance that has to actually cut into the fiberglass lining to allow each of the laterals, and the laterals a pipe from each one of those houses to access that. So, we want to obviously make sure that somebody's not flushing 200 times. It's going to back up into their house because it's got nowhere to get out because they haven't cut that hole yet. I'm not sure if you know at this point in time how long it takes to cure before they cut the hole. Is it the same day, same hours, same minute?
It depends
or all
on the
that it
size
plays
of
out?
the pipe, actually. And most of those pipes in that area are 8 inches, so it takes 5 to 8 hours. So, and they ask that you not run water, not flush the toilets, not take a shower during that time, unless absolutely necessary, because it will fill up your lateral and may back up into your house.
Well, I suggested it to the board. If that's something that we want to do, we certainly can do that. We have, pretty much time to do it. It's a decision on the board.
I think that's a good idea to keep people well informed, so nobody could say, "Gee, I didn't know, I didn't get the flyer." I didn't, you have a flyer, which is a good mode of communication. You have the town hall meeting. I don't think it has to be for the whole village because it's
No,
only
it-
affecting the 520 residents. And that way, I think we've extended all the opportunities we can to get people, because I could really see somebody like just flushing, showering, next thing you know, it's coming up through their drain and they're, what happened?
Yeah,
So.
I mean, it might be something that we could consider. I know, Brian's in that area. I think, Tommy, you're in the area as well. Nick's in the area as well.
When do they plan on actually doing that spraying of the inside of the
Are you talking
sewer
about the
lines.
lining or the
Yes, the
spring?
lining,
Oh,
not the
lining.
spot repairs, but the lining.
Once the spot repairs are done, they're going to start with that, so it should be mid-November, and it's
Okay.
going to take, each run is going to take a while
Yeah.
to do. So it's not, it's going to be over the course of a couple of months.
I
And they
know-
will let every resident know ahead of time that they're doing it, that they'll be doing their house. Definitely.
Well, I'm hearing that we should plan on some type of
Yeah,
event
I think
here.
that'd be a good
And
idea.
if you wouldn't mind, just for the edification of everyone that's here, I don't know if it's still in your office, or did I bring it up from John's? There is the sample piece that Superintendent Feckerata
It's in
made
my
sure we
office.
got on
I'll be happy to go
on
get it and
Preston.
pass it around.
Excuse me, I think the board could take a look at what's actually going to be inside the pipe, if you have a minute to do that as well.
Absolutely.
You know, we should also post it on our website, whatever leaflet we're doing, post that on our website. You know, tweet it, Facebook it, skywrite it.
Okay, have I missed any staff? Kathy, anything? Nothing. Okay. Any board person have anything else other than Nick?
Is one question, you mentioned the leaf bags, and I know everybody's always excited. You can either make a friend or an enemy for less than $2, it seems sometimes with these leaf bags. But I just was looking just for some clarification, because I know we had gotten money from Waste Management to the tune of, I believe, $10,000 for the purchase of the bags, and we got them in our neighborhood already. And I know some of my neighbors had asked, "Oh, who sponsored them?" Because we had the tags on it from last year. I was just wondering, is this going to be a sponsored event, or is this going to be utilized the money from Waste Management? That's what I was just kind of.
We're seeking funding again from sponsors and donors, just like we did the last 2 years.
Okay, but then, I mean, was the money allocated just from Waste Management specifically for that, or is it something that we could do something else then with that money, provided the funding comes?
It was
in there?
budgeted to utilize the leaf bags in our discussions, but if you recall in the budget, we were talking about whatever we raise, we can then use on other things. I think last year we used it on as part of the Vector truck to do the repairs. I think is what we did last year with the funds that we raised.
And I believe if I'm not mistaken, people who donate will be in the newsletter. or
Yes,
any-
they get
Yeah, I
advertisement in
remember,
newsletter,
I
right.
know that there was a reference in the newsletter the following month. I just didn't know if, to date, if anybody who had sponsored, like I said, they asked a question, and I didn't know if we had any sponsors.
No, we'll do the same thing we did last time. We'll put it in the newsletter, get on the website, and let everybody know who was involved.
Okay, well,
So I think at the end of the day, presently, we're still seeking sponsors. We have none presently, but anyone that's out there that wishes to sponsor is
Some
more
money for
than
some-
welcome to do so, and
Yes,
any
yes, we have commitments.
ancillary.
We do
a lot
have
of
commitments
friends.
out there.
Okay, so,
A lot of friends for
here we go.
friends or enemies. Less than $2.
Okay, any other board person have anything? Anybody? Paula? Anybody?
Well, leaf bags will be out there Saturday. I know the ROTC has some commitments. The Proviso East ROTC has some commitments. They're not going to be able to make it. We'll have the scouts out there, and anybody wants to come out and help, we'll be out there on Saturday. I spoke to the printer, so we'll have more stickers tomorrow, so we can get those labels out there. It's supposed to rain next couple of days, so.
Yeah, we did, I think we were out there Saturday. We did some delivering in the High Ridge area. I did some delivering in the island on Sunday and adjacent to the cemetery and just south of here. Then we ran out of stickered bags. So we'll be getting those out in the next couple of weeks. I think I think the target is probably, if it's going to rain this week, we're going to be SOL, but, hopefully in the next week and by that following weekend, hopefully we'll be all done with all that as well. So. Okay, let's see. President reports. Myself, as you may have heard, Mr. Urban and I were in Washington, D.C. to collectively beg with the West Central Municipal Conference of our legislators of any monies that may be able to be shaken loose from the federal government to assist local municipalities like ours for some of the projects that are out there. There was approximately 22 or 3 of us that went to Washington, D.C. We were scheduled to have meetings with Congressman Davis as a follow-up to the town hall. We also had Congressman Quigley, although he doesn't represent pretty much our area presently, and I'm not sure how the remapping is going to turn out one way or the other. Senator Durbin we were able to meet with, and Congressman Lipinski as well. Myself and Mr. Urban were able to schedule meetings with each one of their staffs, so we weren't, we were part of the 20-person push, but we were able to get in and do some of our pre-lobbying before the rest of the group got in there and talk to staff about different opportunities. Mr. Urban had prepared documents regarding a grant for the firefighter grant opportunity that was out there. We submitted that to staff and certainly explained it to each one of the congressmen upon our physical presence meeting. We also talked about the sewer project in the Forest Preserve on Sunnyside Avenue and the removal of that pipe, and some of the, I guess, trials and tribulations trying to get funding from MWRD or the Forest Preserve and or county at this point in time. I want to say that it wasn't a here's our checkbook meeting, although I did ask each one of them to write me a check before I left, actually prior to the WCMC people coming in, and they kind of chuckled because Washington is having a difficult time as well trying to get monies with the $1 trillion debt, the time parameters of trying to get the super committee together and make some decisions by November. So there was a lot of pretty much angst out there. We were also present for the demonstrations that are occurring, albeit in Chicago as well, in New York. They were demonstrating in Washington, D.C. as well. All in all, I think it was a worthwhile trip because, you know, when you get into the elected officials' faces and you can have some contact with them and their staff and get their numbers, you know, and keep it up, you know, maybe we'll shake some of that low-hanging fruit from the tree, as Wally would say. But none felt really confident that there'd be anything forthcoming in as much as there's an election cycle out, and neither group appeared to want to give up any ground to the other, which I certainly indicated on behalf of the little guy that was, you know, not acceptable. With Mr. Durbin's staff, I did have a conversation about the Stratford Act and the $3.23 in the FEMA realm there that, you know, you all know that we were unable as a county to secure any monies for municipal damage as a result of the July flooding. I was reminded that there was some discussion on Capitol Hill of eliminating all that entirely and not having a FEMA money, and all the congressmen and senators that I spoke to said that they would want that program to continue. But it seems the federal government, with the amount of disasters that seem to be hitting the United States of America, has diminished the amount of money that they have in that fund. So each were committed to maintain that program. So again, your guess is as good as mine. Everything is up in the air. We did talk about potentially running a parallel project, and my plan, and I spoke to Hope earlier this week in the legislative session, the veto session, or just prior to that start, that I'd like to make a road trip down to Springfield and contact the IEPA and have our project on the 31st and Sunnyside project to potentially get a pre-application in. As you well know, it took a little while even to get the High Ridge IEPA loan process in the work. That doesn't mean we're going to give up on the other thing, but I figure if we run on two parallel trails, you know, if the IEPA loan comes in, you always could say we don't want it if we get other monies from other place. Some of the questions that are out there for this board to think about is generally they want some type of engineering to be done in that regard. And I know that there has been some preliminary work and some stuff done. I know Burke Engineering has done something, has actually visited the site out there with the Forest Preserve District in that regard. So the board needs to decide how we want to proceed. I'm not certain, and maybe Hope could shed a little light on this, our pre-application, how much we would need as far as showing any engineering or showing a part of it or where we're going to go, but that's something I think this board needs to follow up on and make some decisions where we're going out to an RFP or have any one of the three engineering vendors that are at our disposal to take a look at that, to do some more preliminary costing or something that we might have. So that's something that we need to put on some discussion piece to see what we want to do. So I don't know, Hope, if you have anything that I'm missing in that regard, or any?
We can submit a pre-application, just as kind of a notice that we're going to submit an application, but they won't give approval to anything unless the engineering is completed. And I've spoken with the IEPA, and they said that if we do submit and we meet all the requirements, which we do, that we will get the loan eventually. Right now, they're, as we know, they're at 1.25%. They might be a little bit higher when we do get the loan, or they might be lower. I don't know. I can't speculate on that. But in order to move the process forward, the design work will need to be completed.
Okay. Well, I think we can certainly have a conversation down there and have a pre-application and see what other things that we need, and then we could obviously discuss this pre or post our road trip to see what we need to get. Another thing I want to kind of take a look at as well is I know other communities were able to get IEPA loans to fund a water meter program. As you know, we've changed off meters since this board has been in place and upgraded the meters to a all pretty much touchpad instead of reading a dial. And I would seriously want to consider the possibility of having the radio read adapters placed on those. I think it's a better fit. We could certainly free up some of our meter reader personnel that are walking by foot, touching a touchpad, or we can put transmitters up, whether they're in some vehicle that drives around and picks up the data. We could possibly go to a monthly billing cycle, which I think the cash flow might be better as well. And at the other end of the day, that when we have potentially a monthly read, that we could tell, and the homeowner could certainly tell, what their usage is. For those that are in the front office, there seems to be a lot of contact when people get their bills about how high it is and this, that, and the other thing. And I think that if we have a monthly bill process, that someone could say, hey, maybe there's a problem ahead of time. So if I have a leaky toilet that's leaking, guess what? I might be able to catch it in this month and not happen. I'll tell you a little story with my son Joe's house, which is vacant. I went there to turn the water on and flush the toilet just to make sure everything goes. Well, I had a senior moment and left the sink running. So I went there 2 days later and heard shh and wondered what the heck that was. And then I went down and said, you idiot, you left the sink going. There was no use at all for 3 months other than that day, and that was 10,000 gallons of water in 2 days from a full running sink, hot and cold. I had both of them full on just to let it run for a little bit, figuring I was going to flush both the lines out. So, you know, that's the way that goes. So, again, people that have a running toilet that may not know it, and I know John's been in the house throwing little packets of food dye to see if there's a leak or whatever. This might assist them because water is such a high commodity and there's such a cost to it that, you know, there may be some value in that. So I would encourage this board to look at that. It's something that maybe we can also put an IEPA loan on as well. I know John does have some numbers from past about what these radio read appliances cost, whether they're $100, $200, I don't know. I think what we're talking about is an appliance that fits over the outside meter that's already there. It's a small little plastic box. We may have, I've seen it at the IML meeting. Nick may have seen it as well. To me, I can't see it being that costly.
It was 100 at the time, because that was 12 years ago. It was like 100. They give it to us for $97 a piece.
I remember that. Okay, well, if we got 7,000 houses, there you go. So to me, you know, that may be something that would be something that we could do, you know. But again, whatever it is, it might be another thing that we might want to put the loan up again as well. And I would imagine that we can do the same thing and have businesses apply for this as well. Ms. Hope.
We've been looking at the numbers that, because I brought this forward about a year and a half, 2 years ago when we were looking at doing the water meters, and I looked back through the numbers, and the radio read device that goes on is about $187 per house, and then the infrastructure to go with the current system that we have, the infrastructure to be put in place with the antenna is, I believe, $750,000. So the total cost of the project was near $1.6 to $1.8 million. There are some other options. We can go with a different company who will put their box on top of our water meter, and their infrastructure is a little bit cheaper, but I'd be happy to bring forward all of those options again so that we could look at them.
Yeah, I think it was 1.2 to 1.6. I think last time we talked about it was that range. So yeah.
Okay, I was just reading it this last week. I thought it said.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
I remember, but I remember there were two options, two different companies, and I think it was
Well,
the difference between 1.2 or 1.6.
I guess at the end of the day, with that amount of money, I mean, if it was $10,000, the IEPA would say there's something wrong with you asking for it. But if it's something of that magnitude, I would ask the board if we want to also submit an application for that as well.
Yeah, Johnson & Johnson gave us a proposal before. Remember that, John? We had that from before, and it was somewhere around $1.1 million back then. Right, Johnson?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, $97, and that's when Bob Mitchell was here, and he brought it up, and someone didn't want it, so.
I think probably the technology will be a lot
Check
better.
into them, Hope, Johnson &
Badger was
Johnson.
the $98
Was it?
other option that would fit over our census equipment.
And that's something I think that, like Wally indicated, that would be something the water fund would be utilized for that type of project. I'm sure
Absolutely.
there's,
Well, you guys should do it.
You give us a check, John, or could we have an automatic withdrawal from your pay, or?
Goodbye, V-Box, huh? See you later on the V-Box, huh?
I guess, so at the end of the day, what I'm asking is,
How about it, huh? He's already
do you want
said
Hope to
no.
explore this a little bit
Yes.
further? And
Yes.
if we're going down to
Yes.
Springfield, do you want me to
Absolutely.
submit that as well?
Yep.
Is that pretty much where we're at?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I did, as a result of the last heavy rain that we had, and I'm pretty confident that the, Public Works was out in that 2900 block. You have Kensington, Downing, Mayfair, and, the streets on the south end that are pretty much on a pretty steep incline. You could probably race one of those Pinewood Derby things there and make it all the way to 31st Street. I know Mr. Urban had been communicating with a resident on Downing Street regarding that on a number of occasions. What I'll share with you, there's some technical information that one of the engineers from Burke took a look at and offered some possibilities to assist that location. However, this location is multiplied by a number of other locations in an immediate area and maybe other places as well. So I'm not going to go into it today, but I will share this email with all of you regarding some piece of a remediation that may be able to take place to help in that regard. However, just to let you know that it may have to be done on multiple streets because they're all in the same boat, and there may be other ones as well that we're just not aware of. But apparently the slope is having a problem. Another letter I received from the Westchester Place homeowners. It talks about there's 262 homes in the townhomes area there. What they're requesting is that that we look at Westminster, which is the city street. The other streets are private streets that have no parking on one side of the street from 2 to 6 a.m. And they're asking that the east and north side of Westminster be designated no parking. This is on the right side of Westminster upon entering. They indicate here that that cars are parking on both sides, which is very difficult when there's snow removal and may be a hazard as well when emergency vehicles have to take a look at that. So with your concurrence, what I'll do is I'll tender this over to not only the police chief, the fire chief, and Dennis as well, and certainly John could take a look at this as well and maybe report back to us if you think that there is a need to do this, as that's been in place probably since the 70s, that there have been no restrictions on Westminster. So this is a recent request. So
They emailed you that, Sam?
I got it in the mail.
You got it in the mail?
I got it in the mail the other day. Actually, I have 2 copies of it, so if someone else wants to take a peek at it. But
Yeah, because some of those guys park because their driveways, they're so short, and they pay for their driveways to be clean, so a lot of them park on Westminster.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Well, I mean, that's in your neck of the woods, if you want to take a look at
Yeah.
that letter there, and I don't have that in email form. I'm sure I can scan it and send it to everybody. It came in the mail in 2 different ways, so I got that as well. I did receive a comment from one of the deans at St. Joseph's High School. It seems to me that there may be a problem, and I think this is an inherent problem that other boards have dealt with as well, that students from St. Joseph's High School, they park on Dorchester between Mayfair Avenue and Kensington on both sides to access the school. The school has received complaints, and so have I, from some of the residents that with the constant parking there, that it's very difficult to even make sure that the street is swept by our sweeping equipment. So I guess this is pretty much a question for John, if it would be possible to alert or put up the no parking signs in that area on a potential day that you want to sweep. Now, I know we don't have any set days that we go Tuesday to 19th or Wednesday to 15th or whatever, but if we know we're going to be sweeping Dorchester, and it seems to be in that area is the only complaint that I have, that quite possibly maybe the night before, if we know we're going to hit that, because the kids are parking there at 7 o'clock already, by the time PW gets out there, that maybe we can put something for a couple blocks. I don't think if, it's going to affect someone that's going to walk down from Downing to St. Joe's, but maybe we can. So, okay, so we could put some cardboard signs up, maybe the night before, that there'll be no parking, whatever, for street sweeping. We won't have to have a permanent sign, but we could put something so we can accommodate our goals, especially now with the advanced amount of leaves that are going to be falling down there. We want to make sure that we pick those up. in all areas. So you don't see a problem with that, sir? Okay. And let's see. Mrs. Booth, I believe that it, with the absence of a deputy clerk, if you wouldn't mind putting that in your thought process to possibly appoint, like we had in the past, a deputy that maybe somebody on staff so they could handle a few of the things during the day, and then sometimes that you may not be able to attend or whatever, that you can feel confident that we have somebody in the game to take care of that. So if you wouldn't mind putting that in your thought process. Okay. The last thing I got, I know Mr. Hinsdale made reference to me earlier today, and the only thing I could say is that after my Liquor Commission hearing, he mentioned to me the situation that transpired. Following my meeting, I went up front, and like he said, I did offer him to take a look at my packet if he wanted it as well, and then I would find out what was going on. And in fact, I immediately penned a letter, and it was to all from me in the meeting packet of October 11th. Attached to this memo is my copy of our scheduled board meeting and committee of the whole meeting packet scheduled for today. The packet is marked draft as some of the items enclosed have not been improved, and for discussion purposes where a decision may or may not be made this evening on the contents. The contents are available for visual review. Please make sure to complete the FOIA request before the review, and to please keep the contents intact as I'll be using the packet tonight at the meeting. So that when that transpired, I immediately went to Janet, the finance person, and I asked her if she would be so kind to contact Mr. Hinsdale and tell him that everything was ready for him, that he could certainly look at my packet and go from there. And I also asked that if there was some prohibition to releasing the packet early, that we may want to contact the Attorney General and get an opinion if there's a problem with a pre-release. As I didn't see any problem with a pre-release of the packet. In fact, I did have conversation with Mr. Urban, which I even explained to him as well, and Mr. Riebel, that I would like to have some type of visual projector in this building. In fact, I even dropped off a 40 or 50-inch television here that I asked Greg if he could roll it in here and actually show some of the documents that we were going to talk about even this evening. And he said that we weren't poised to do that as well, and that we are working on that piece as in the hopper, that Mr. Urban was working with him, that hopefully in the future that we'll have a television screen in here where, as we're going through some of these documents, albeit they have not been approved, that at least the people out there will, in the audience, will be able to see some of the things we're talking about, other than looking at a sheet with just a letter and a name next to it. So.
Can't we, as a packet's being made for you, can't we make a second packet and just have it available where you can take, but if you want to observe it?
Yeah, well, I think that was the question.
And I think that would be, I don't know if there's any legal restrictions on that. But.
The restrictions come in place with the Freedom of Information Act, which provides for a 5-day turnaround. Outside limit is 5 days. The problem that you experience if a citizen comes in and thinks that they can make a request, and you have a limited staff, you have a FOIA officer that has other responsibilities, you have multiple FOIA requests for very large volumes of documents that do have to be finalized within the deadline. When someone just comes in off the street and says, I want photocopies of this and this, it's difficult for your staff to drop everything and to accommodate that. But what you're talking about, to have that one copy available, there's nothing wrong with that, but I don't know that the individual wanted that. That was offered to him, and I don't think he was satisfied with
then,
that,
I mean, if you have a copy available for observation or review, And if that doesn't suffice, then you have to wait the 5 days to, just like.
Or maybe
you
it's
know.
2 days, but it just,
Yeah.
it can't be, you get it within 10 minutes of walking in. I mean.
I think if you have something there to review, you've satisfied the request, and if the copies, I want it right this minute, 15 people could be lined up saying, I want it right
Exactly.
this minute, and, so let's, I mean, there's gotta be a reasonableness factor in here.
Well,
Yes.
like I said, I thought I was being reasonable as well, and here's my copies. I put my initials on them and wrote draft on them with the accompanying letter, and I thought it was a moot point. So,
Sam?
that being
Was
said,
it-
yeah,
ca-
Brian.
Can we not put it online and make it available? I've heard from,
Yeah.
another community that they actually put their packets online before the meetings.
I-
I know it's a huge file to download. I don't know if that's gonna cause an IT nightmare for
We've
Greg,
got
but.
But we're gonna have a great new web thing, so that shouldn't be an issue.
But so I heard that, so I just thought,
You know
might
what?
as well.
Like I
Put it
told,
out there.
You got Hope up there, she's got some.
well, I told Mr. Hinsdale
Just wanna
when he
explain.
approached me after the hearing, I said, I don't have a problem with it. I'll give you mine. I'll go to my office right now and you take a look at anything you look at.
I mean,
So-
last meeting we had, we did discuss a little bit of what was taking so much time in the office and what was going on with, attorney's fees and everything. It's like, well, that seems like an easy one that we just don't have to spend time on. It's, it's a packet. It's not, if they file the FOIA, it's not something we're going to say no to. So let's just make it available so it's not an issue going forward.
Like I said, I have no problem with it.
Yeah.
I was
Ms.
just
Hope,
hoping
how
to
are
get
you?
a chance just to explain my actions today, in that I had not actually reviewed the packet this time around yet at the time that it was requested to hand it out. And so I did not know if there was any personal information in there or if there was any ongoing contractual information in there. And as FOIA officer, I've got to make sure that that stuff is not in things that I hand out. It has to be redacted before items go out. If we would like to put the packet on the web every week, then I would just review it every Friday afternoon before we did that, and then we would just know that it was okay for everyone to look at. I had not had a chance to look at it yet. It was 1:30 when he came in, and I knew that I wasn't going to get a chance until later, and that's why I said, please fill out a FOIA request, and I'll get it to you when I get a chance to get it to you. Unfortunately, that was not fast enough, so I apologize. I didn't think I was rude. I do try to give out FOIAs as quickly as possible.
Okay, well, we have some direction. I think it's a moot point, and we'll follow up on what we want to
Do
do.
what we do and move on. You don't like it, then you have to wait.
So,
the
but
5
thank you,
days.
Hope. Okay, anything else? So,
At this stage, you need to recess this meeting to be reconvened after the conclusion of the committee of the whole meeting, and then when you reconvene, the items left on the agenda will be executive session to be followed by item 6E, action regarding personnel matter. So simply calling a recess as the chair is sufficient. We don't need a vote.
okay.
This meeting will be halted temporarily to be resumed after the
Okay, so-
COW.
Based on Attorney Durkin's astute recommendation here, we'll halt this meeting at this time, and we will reconvene it following our committee of the whole and following the executive session.
No,
that
you're
will-
gonna reconvene it to vote to go into executive
Executive
session.
session.
So,
Okay. All right.
Wow.
So,
no, you don't have to motion.
Okay.
The meeting is recessed, and now
halt.
you can have
okay.
the call to order for the COW meeting.